The Maricopa Association of Governments touches many areas of our lives, from the roads we use, to the air we breathe, to working together to help our most vulnerable residents. MAG is there. But how did we get here? MAG was formed on April 12, 1967, making it 50 years MAG has been serving our region. But the MAG story starts even earlier. MAG was created in the wake of several events requiring regional cooperation. One significant event occurred in 1960, when Wilbur Smith and Associates completed the major street and highway plan for the Phoenix area.
That Wilbur Smith plan then pretty much served as the foundation for the later MAG plans.
Soon after the Wilbur Smith plan was complete, the Federal Aid Highway Act of 1962 was passed. It required regional transportation planning.
And it was the first time that essentially you have a federal edict. If you want federal money for highways, then you have to cooperate with the local officials.
The first regional effort was in 1965 and was known as the Valley Area Traffic and Transportation Study, or VATS. But it soon became clear a full-fledged regional agency was required, a task that fell to former MAG Secretary Jack Tobolski.
When they did that, they required us to set up a planning process. Well, you can go two ways. You can turn it over to the bureaucrats and set up a planning structure that is out of the control of cities, or you can set up a structure that would be under the control of local government.
Local governments chose the latter. MAG was formed on April 12, 1967 by concurrent resolutions from its member agencies. The first meeting of the Regional Council was called to order at 7:30 p.m. The council elected Scottsdale Mayor Bud Timms as chair, who noted there were many areas of common interest and concern to Valley cities. But the new agency was viewed with extreme suspicion.
They didn't even trust the Maricopa Association of Governments to be formed unless it was part of the Municipal League, the League of Arizona Cities and Towns. So I was actually a League employee, and one of the founding principles of the League was that unit of government closest to the people needs to be in charge.
Some went so far as to call MAG a communist conspiracy. But as the director of the League, Tobolski had gained credibility. He assured members that MAG would not take the place of any local government. He began by setting up a management committee to ensure city and town managers also had a voice in MAG decisions.
We didn't create another level of government or another organization. We formed one out of the League, which made sense at the time.
With the structure of MAG in place, the work began. In 1968, the I-10 Papago Loop was accepted for the federal interstate system. But in what would become yet another test for MAG, the 17-mile, 8-lane Papago Freeway project faced extreme opposition, much of which came from the state's largest newspaper.
They just pounded editorially articles, and they wound up killing that freeway, putting us in a very controversial position.
In 1973, in what was called an advisory referendum, Phoenix voters rejected the freeway as designed. The New York Times called it a severe setback to city and state transportation planners and elected officials. That same year, the governor designated MAG as the Metropolitan Planning Organization for the Maricopa region. As the decade drew to a close, MAG began a major reevaluation of the transportation plan. Those efforts would bear fruit in MAG's second decade. In the meantime, there were many other achievements at MAG, including the development of plans for solid waste, water quality, and land use. MAG also coordinated criminal justice programs throughout the region. In 1974, Goodyear Mayor Charlie Salem is named MAG's second chair. MAG was officially designated in 1975 as the area-wide Water Quality Management Planning Agency. That same year, MAG conducted a study on regional growth management, which outlined a strategy for dealing with future development. MAG also began early efforts in the area of human services, including aging and health, and would soon create a Human Services Planning Office. And in the final year of the decade, the Clean Air Act amendments were passed. MAG's life was about to change. As MAG entered its second decade, the raging controversy over the Papago Freeway design left MAG transportation planners reeling.
The hard no reaction to freeways really kind of stopped anything meaningful from happening for a long period of time.
There was a sense that Phoenix didn't want to grow up to be LA. Well, we were growing up anyway, and the only thing worse than being LA with the freeways would be to be LA without the freeways.
People thought they were voting against a freeway design, Interstate 10, and it was interpreted by the politicians and the press as being a vote against freeways.
It was time to regroup. It was also time to get freeway and transit supporters on the same page. The new plan included creation of a regional transit planning agency. The next hurdle, funding. MAG wanted a property tax, but the business community felt a property tax would fall disproportionately on them. A gas tax? Not enough revenue. Income or property taxes? Too hard to sell. A sales tax was not only politically acceptable, it would fund the entire loop system.
This was, although we backed into it, a revolutionary concept to use consumption taxes to fund transportation.
Proposition 300 went before voters on October 8, 1985. It was an overwhelming success, with 72% voting yes. While transportation issues took center stage, the early 1980s saw additional drama in the area of human services. The federal government passed a block grant to give each state money for human services programs. But in Arizona, such programs were almost non-existent. The state recognized it needed help at the local level.
The state looked around and wisely looked to the councils of governments throughout Arizona and said, you have your pulse on what's going on in your counties, and we would like you to be involved.
The MAG Human Services Planning Office was formed in 1980, and in 1982, a key priority surfaced. It was Thanksgiving, temperatures near freezing. A tent city of homeless people sprung up near downtown Phoenix.
They're trying to stay warm with burning anything they could find, trying to stay fed with whatever kind of food they could find, and everybody was just horrified.
I was coming down Washington Street and noticed some folks were building some fires at 9th Avenue and Jefferson. So I stopped and I said, hey, what do you need? Well, they say we need some water. We need some porta-john.
Good asked Jack Tevlin, a former MAG staffer who had begun working for the city of Phoenix, for help. Tevlin ordered water and sanitation brought to the site. Good recalls that MAG soon got involved and regional homeless planning began.
The need is there, perhaps even greater now than it was back then. But MAG always responded to our concerns.
There also were major events in air quality. 1977 Clean Air Act amendments required regions that received federal funds to develop air quality plans if they failed to meet national standards. Many didn't like the federal edict.
But slowly but surely, people came to understand that the brown cloud was real and it was something that had to be dealt with.
MAG began working to reduce 3 serious pollutants: carbon monoxide, ozone, and dust. MAG's first carbon monoxide plan was completed in 1982, but that plan was later disapproved as a result of a lawsuit filed by the Arizona Center for Law and the Public Interest against the EPA.
We had the lawsuit against the EPA that ended up making MAG get the cities involved in taking serious steps to improve our air quality.
In 1986, MAG worked with the state legislature on a bill that required MAG to prepare a comprehensive air quality plan. MAG member agencies then implemented measures outlined in the plan.
I think the quality of air we have today stems directly from the early steps that we took in the 80s.
There were many other important activities in the decade, ranging from population projections to a special census. Another MAG-led program that forever changed lives in the Valley was the creation of a regional 911 system. Many said it couldn't be done, but MAG worked with the Corporation Commission to identify funding and with technical expertise from police and fire officials, the system went live September 9th, 1985.
But it was really a testament to how things are done at MAG. You get the best run cities in the world to send you staff members to solve a problem that some people think can't be done, and it could be done, and it's saving lives every day here in the Valley.
The elation surrounding passage of Prop 300 was short-lived. In 1987, ADOT announced cost estimates much higher than originally planned. Construction costs were skyrocketing. A real estate boom increased costs for right-of-way. MAG and ADOT were in the spotlight over rising costs. Then the savings and loan crisis hit, creating a nationwide financial meltdown.
And we saw revenues coming in significantly under the projections, which really caused a kind of a tsunami happening because we had higher costs and lower revenues. Really put the freeway program in a crisis mode.
Despite the churning economy, the region was moving forward with Valtrans, a transit measure designed to be the second half of Prop 300. The $8 billion plan included 100 miles of elevated light rail and bus improvements. But voters were simply in the wrong frame of mind.
As I recall, it went to the ballot in 1989, which is only 4 years after the initial sales tax for the freeways had been proposed and approved. So it was a little quick to go back to the well.
Valtrans went down in a crushing defeat.
If we'd been able to pass in 1989 the Valtrans program, we'd be way ahead of the curve in terms of transportation, in terms of air quality, in terms of just a better place to live.
5 years passed. The transportation system remained behind the times. In 1994, Prop 400 again proposed a half-cent sales tax, but with revenues divided between freeways and transit. But the public trust just wasn't there. The proposition failed.
By 1994, we had put a lot of management practices in place to restore the fiscal integrity of the program. But I don't think by 1984 that progress really had been seen publicly yet.
The defeat led Governor Fife Symington to put forward his own freeway program. Cut from the map were the Paradise Freeway in Phoenix and 3 West Valley freeways, the Estrella, Grand Avenue, and Agua Fria south of I-10. Other freeways, such as the Santan, Red Mountain, and South Mountain, were left unfunded.
I was just stunned, just absolute shock, and as were my colleagues across the valley, and it was such a setback.
MAG reluctantly approved the governor's plan. The defeat had many taking a second look at MAG. Some proposed a new agency with more authority. Mayor Scruggs believed it wasn't a new agency that was needed, but rather that MAG needed to separate itself from the League of Arizona Cities and Towns.
Things just couldn't continue the way that they were. And there were competing sources from outside of MAG that wanted to get control of transportation planning and implementation in the valley.
Some MAG staff were housed at the county, others at the League. The split meant that all staff would be brought together under one roof. To further establish MAG's credibility, Mayor Scruggs chaired a working group to re-engineer the MAG policy process. Among the refinements, a more transparent, user-friendly agenda to better convey technical information and show how previous committees had voted. Soon, the revenue picture improved. Transportation planners sharpened their pencils. A fiscal analysis refined cost assumptions, putting $500 million back on the table. Enough to add back in the Red Mountain and Santan freeways and to accelerate many others by 7 years.
And that's where the real work came, to program that money so that we could do the most good in the most number of places.
MAG also continued its efforts in air quality. Congress passed the 1990 Clean Air Act amendments imposing stringent air quality requirements. The region was classified as a moderate area for coarse particulates, or PM10. MAG prepared a plan to address the new dust standard. In a separate effort to protect the environment, in 1995 the Regional Council adopted the Desert Spaces Plan to protect open space that defines the natural character of the valley. The plan still serves as a framework for city planning today. From the environment to transportation, the agency's third decade had once again demonstrated MAG's resilience. Yet even more success was on the horizon. With the half-cent sales tax set to expire in 2005, time was running out for new transportation funding. Dennis Smith, a critical part of MAG since 1976, had just been named executive director. He knew getting support of voters meant learning from the '94 defeat.
There's a saying, from failure comes great wisdom. So even though we lost that election, we learned so much from losing that when we went in 2004, we corrected all of those mistakes.
The first order of business, drafting a new regional transportation plan.
In addition, it was determined that we really needed a separate committee that just looked at transportation, and that's how the Transportation Policy Committee came into being.
Former Phoenix Mayor Skip Rimza, just coming out of Phoenix's successful Transit 2000 election, recommended that MAG expand its policy process to include not only elected officials, but business representatives as well. Queen Creek Mayor Wendy Feldman Kerr became chair of MAG just as the TPC was being created.
So by bringing the businesses into the fold and being on the committee, we could also talk about infrastructure and how it was going to impact the valley and how we would get all of it done as a whole.
The TPC included 6 members representing regional business. The structure was later formalized in state law.
Because we couldn't get anything done without the business community, without the real true stakeholders. So that partnership was really important and wouldn't have happened without them.
The TPC also knew the plan needed to address many different needs.
Our friends in the West Valley needed freeway capacity, desperately needed freeway capacity. Our friends in the East Valley needed the freeway capacity, but also were interested in multimodal transportation, and including something for urban transit, light rail, more buses, bicycles.
The new plan allocated a third of the revenues to public transportation. The public also had seen the progress of Prop 300. The Loop 101 and major portions of the Red Mountain Freeway were completed. The Santan was under construction.
At the same time, many of the management practices we put into place to better manage the program really, I think, gave the public a lot more confidence in our ability to deliver what we say we can.
There also was a greater focus on public participation. In all, MAG conducted more than 400 input opportunities with stakeholders and the public. Many of these were led by the elected officials in their own communities.
One of the things we felt strongly about was getting the public involved and understanding where we were going with this, why we were choosing the projects that were being chosen to be included in Prop 400, and then how important it was for them to get out and vote positively for it.
And when the opposition called a press conference, 6 Valley mayors crashed it, leading to a heated debate between Mayor Scruggs and businessman David Thompson.
There was this towering man who I'd never heard of or met before, who was just very active still in some strong anti-tax movements, and he was just outrageous. I just had to speak up.
Voters went to the polls November 2nd, 2004. Prop 400 passed by a solid margin of 58 to 42%. Another milestone in MAG's 4th decade also has had lasting impact. In 1998, a young mother was stabbed to death in front of her children due to a lack of space in domestic violence shelters. The community was stunned. MAG formed the Regional Domestic Violence Council to bring together governments, law enforcement, prosecutors, and nonprofit groups to prevent such tragedies.
That was really an eye-opener, I think, for many of our elected officials, for many of our staff, for people who were involved with the committee, because we didn't realize the extent of the problem.
The council was soon working with everyone from employers to hospitals to law enforcement to develop best practices for dealing with domestic violence. MAG also continued to define best practices in air quality, in 1997 dealing with a new and tougher ozone standard, and in 99 working on a new dust plan to stave off threatened sanctions by the EPA. The revised plan was approved by the EPA in 2002. In 2005, the EPA redesignated the region to attainment for carbon monoxide. MAG Environmental Director Lindy Bauer says the success in controlling these pollutants is the result of sustained efforts over the years.
Under the Clean Air Act, one air quality plan builds upon another. We have been very fortunate to have such a wide variety of control measures in place. Taking a look at the air quality trend data, the numbers keep coming down.
Other successes ranged from the launch of the Freeway Service Patrol to help stranded motorists, to putting quiet pavement on all major valley freeways. The Don't Trash Arizona program began, and MAG adopted model ordinances ranging from curfews to graffiti. It had been an extraordinary decade, but soon the economy would falter. MAG would find a new role in economic development to help grow the region and the state.
The route guidance will start now.
As MAG entered its 5th decade, the region looked forward to continued progress under the new Regional Transportation Plan. Collection of the half-cent sales tax under Prop 400 had begun, netting $391 million in 2007. No one guessed that would be the last time the region would see such revenue for nearly a decade.
That was the first time we'd ever had a decline in sales tax revenues in this county, and so it came as a shock to everybody.
By 2008, the economy was in a free fall. Due to declining revenues, the MAG Regional Council took a deep breath and cut nearly $7 billion from the Regional Transportation Plan. In 2009, recognizing that their economies were intertwined, MAG and its counterparts in Pima and Pinal counties formed the Joint Planning Advisory Council. The purpose was to coordinate planning efforts in the Sun Corridor, which represents 81% of the state's population and 85% of sales tax revenue.
I really believe that from a regional approach, we needed, as elected officials, to have a dialogue about what we could do to bring economic development to the community.
By March 2010, the number of pending and foreclosed homes had grown to more than 63,000. The need to diversify the economy soon resulted in the creation of the MAG Economic Development Committee.
We were able to develop a committee, and that committee was to look at things that we could do that could spur economic development.
The committee, which included elected officials and business representatives, began working on a number of successful initiatives. The efforts were supported by MAG's Information Services Division, led by Anubhav Bagley. Using the big data sets created at MAG, the group analyzed economic development opportunities and set a new direction for MAG in helping to grow local business.
So I think the Economic Development Committee has been extremely important in not only building relationships within our own context of the state, but nationally and internationally.
Mayor Rogers also championed efforts to extend the travel zone for pre-screened Mexican visitors with border crossing cards from the current 75-mile limit to the entire state. Extending the zone would mean an increase in Arizona's tourism revenue of about $181 million a year.
That means that they could visit the Grand Canyon, they could visit Yuma, they could visit Snowflake, they could visit the whole state, spend their money in those cities and towns, and then also bring in that revenue into our state coffers.
In 2014, MAG signed a partnering charter to create the Arizona Mega Region. The Mexico State Congress formally recognized MAG for its efforts.
We have great products and services to offer the world, and the vast majority of the marketplace is outside of our borders. So we have to think and act in a more concerted way towards exporting.
Despite the floundering economy, by no means did transportation progress stop. Major milestones included the Loop 303 connection to I-17 in 2011, the opening of the first section of State Route 24 in 2014, and the beginning of construction of the South Mountain Freeway in 2016. Congress officially designated the I-11 corridor in 2012. There were major achievements in safety, transit, and regional bike improvements. But the best news came in April 2017. Thanks to improving revenues and more refined cost estimates, the Regional Council moved to add $1.25 billion back into the Regional Transportation Program. Work continued on the human services front as well. Heat-related deaths in 2005 resulted in creation of the Heat Relief Network, providing places for residents to donate water or seek refuge. MAG continued to bring funding into the region for housing and services through its coordinated application process. Since 1999, totaling $374 million.
What MAG has done on the issue of trying to end homelessness, to change the mindset of this region, that we're not going to manage homelessness, but we are going to end chronic homelessness in this region.
In 2013, MAG launched its age-friendly network to help older adults engage in their communities.
But there are so many people that are ready to create and to share and to build on their experiences, and I think that was important, not only for me, but certainly for generations to come.
In 2010, MAG worked with ADOT to complete the first fiber connections for the Regional Community Network. The fiber optic network lets safety personnel see video of traffic coming from one city into another and provides critical access for public safety agencies. The extra bandwidth also serves to back up the region's 911 system. In 2013, the MAG planning area boundary was expanded, and MAG welcomed new members, including the town of Florence, city of Maricopa, and Pinal County. In the area of air quality, the EPA established another, more stringent ozone standard.
There are 4 ozone standards. The region has successfully met 2 of the ozone standards, and in fact, this summer, the region may very well meet the 3rd ozone standard.
Dust pollution was another issue. After the region challenged an EPA decision in 2010 partially disapproving MAG's dust plan, MAG withdrew the plan. In 2011, the valley was rocked by major dust storms, making the word haboob a household name. In 2012, MAG resubmitted its plan, providing reams of documentation regarding exceedances caused by the haboobs. In 2014, the EPA approved the 2012 plan, a move celebrated in a press conference by elected officials. What does MAG's history tell us about the future? George Renner says observing milestones like the 50th anniversary is important.
And you can sometimes learn a little by looking backward before you look forward to solve the problems that that still lie in front of us.
I think we're going to see, even over the next 5 or 10 years, I think we'll see more change in transportation than we've seen over the last 50 years.
It's not about our personal accomplishments, it's about we're committed to making a difference in this valley.
That model, that decision-making model, coming together around a common table to solve issues, that's what MAG's all about, and we need that moving forward.